Tell you what, before I get started, let me invite everybody to stand up for a second. I know you've just made yourself comfortable, and if I could ask you to swivel around and introduce yourself to the people sitting in front and back.
Good to meet you again.
Nice to meet you.
We know each other.
So, I will, so before I share in a very, very speedy and condensed fashion some lessons I've learned by doing what you do since 1974, I'll share with you two core lessons which are not in my presentation. One of them is, one of the key lessons that I've learned is the lesson of getting back up after you've been knocked down. And I would tell you that that's probably the core lesson. Because you'll be knocked down so many times your head will spin. And if you don't have a strong heart or a reasonable constitution for failing, then you can't be an entrepreneur. And second, it's a little bit what Mary said, and frankly watching the energy get all the buzz here, that there will be some other people here in this room who will be your competitors, but they may also be the people that find the money for you. Or that you can call in the middle of the night and ask for help. It's that network, it's that interdependence is far more powerful a resource and a tool. And I would say along with that, one of the things I've learned over the years is that you'll be surprised how people who you think would support you will not. And other people who you might not think have any skin in the game at all want you to be successful. And finding out who they are and bringing your heart and your energy in that direction is very valuable, I found. Anyhow, so, this, of course, leads us to Menudo. Since the modern age of marketing and business development in the 1940s, we've basically been in a Menudo trance. And the idea is you target young people, and then when they get old, you just replace them with another group of equivalents. And that's been one of the struggles with the mature, let's call it the mature population, that people have always believed that there's really no sense in targeting folks at 45 or 55 because they've already established their brand preferences. They know who they are, they know which car they're going to drive and what kind of shampoo they're going to use and so on. And so you should always be targeting young. Of course, in the last decade, that's been totally made to be false because people increasingly are trying new things pretty well equally at every stage in life. So the whole anchor that holds together modern media, which is held together by an advertiser bias and preference, is wrong. But continues on. So you're not only up against, can I raise money and can I hire a reasonable manager who will work as hard as me, but it's also, how do I break through this incredible bias? So I'm going to share 5 engines of change swiftly, and I'm going to offer some recommendations interleaved throughout. So I'm going to try to do kind of a matrix version of this, and we'll see how it goes. Lesson 1, maturity isn't what it used to be. You probably know that, but a lot of the folks who control capital, people who buy and sell media, people who might come to work for you, they just don't get it. They've got a picture in their head that maturity was some notion that they imagined when they were around their grandparents when they were little. More and more we're seeing that older people today are quite active, they're quite vital, they're vibrant, and they've got money to spend, more than any other segment of the population, and they're discovering themselves. Part of the reason for all this is seen in this chart here. This is the chart of the average life expectation at birth over the past 1,000 years. And what I'm struck by every time I look at this is the fact that throughout all of history, most people didn't age, they died. So in the 1850s, couples didn't say, gee, honey, what would you like to do after retirement? You should be dead. middle-aged people weren't all that concerned about caregiving mom or dad, because by the time you became 40 or 50, it was likely your parents weren't any longer alive. Our medical system didn't need to be expert at things like hypercholesterolemia, osteoarthritis, adult onset diabetes, Alzheimer's, because people died young of acute infectious diseases before they got old enough to have their bodies wear out. Marketers didn't worry that much about meeting the needs of an older population, let alone subsegments of the older population, as Paul Klayman mentioned earlier, a Hispanic older person or an African American. By the way, I heard a great comment about ethnicity and demography. I was in a meeting in Miami, and they said that the average Miami citizen is born a Hispanic boy and dies a Jewish woman. You can figure that out. But something quite dramatic is occurring, and I would say has occurred, because the biological potential of the human body is somewhere between 120 and 140 years, and so we're in the middle of this longevity revolution. And to make the point even a bit more dramatic, I'm going to click this device and show you the average life expectation at birth, not over the past 1,000 years, but over the past 100,000 years. And there, everything gets even more interesting, because what medical anthropologists now tell us is that through 99% of human history, the average life expectancy was under 18. So while our historic history gave us a certain number of 40-year-olds and 60-year-olds and 80-year-olds, not many. And I would argue, and I could drive you crazy with the argument probably, that this longevity revolution at the end of the day will have a bigger impact on who we think we are, where we are in our lives, the competitiveness of nations, technology, education, sexuality, the family, than either the industrial or technological revolutions of previous centuries. This dynamic changes everything. Everything. One of the things that's changing is what is old. And I know that the purpose of our meeting here today is not to focus on old, but I'm going to lay down some context which we'll weave together. We all know that 65 was selected to be the marker of old age way back in the 1880s by Otto von Bismarck, when he was crafting Europe and Germany, specifically his first pension plan. But it's really important that we keep in mind that that year the life expectancy in North America and Europe was 45. So if we were to use the exact same formula today, we'd be giving people their senior discount starting at 98. So it's sort of bizarre in a way that we continue to use 65 as a marker of old age when it was set 130 years ago, when people really were old at 65. They're not anymore. So what does 65 look like these days? Well, Sophie Loren was 65 in this picture is taken. And just to give you a frame of reference, when Whistler painted his mom, she was right around the same age, so this was kind of one of those John Glenn, who I know, tough guy. I was asked by CNN to do some of the early commentary when he announced he was going to go back up into space at 77. So I carefully watched his first day of press interviews because he was getting a lot of attacks that this was just sort of a publicity gimmick, kind of geezer goes up into space sort of thing. And Glenn looked at the reporters in one of his first hours of interviews and he said, hey, wait a minute. Just because I'll be 77 doesn't mean I still don't have dreams.